I recently had a conversation about being back in the world of Fujifilm with the X-E5, mentioning that I love using Fujifilm for shooting vintage lenses. Somebody asked me, how do you do that? So I thought, hey, good idea for a video. That is what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be talking about how I set my Fujifilm cameras up to shoot vintage lenses. It does not need to be an X-E5. It could be any of the modern Fujifilm bodies. I've been doing it since the X-T4. All you need is a lens mount for the X mount to whatever lens system you're using. So in my case, I'm using the M42 mount for my Pentax film camera. And you just put this on your camera, and then you can take a lens like this Helios 44 that I just received, and I'm very excited to try it out. This is a screw mount system, so it has to screw into the mount. There we go. Now, let me walk you through how to set up your Fujifilm camera to use vintage lenses like this one. When you get your Fujifilm camera, if you make no changes at all, you are in custom 1, the C1. That's just where you are in the system. So I have made changes to my custom 1. This is how I prefer to shoot my camera. And so I kind of have all of my custom 1 settings set. Now you'll notice when I go to the page 4 of the IQ, there is an edit save, and there's also a mount adapter. This is where you will enter the information about your lenses. You'll see that I don't have any in my custom 1. The reason I'm really pounding on this is I've made the mistake in the past of setting up a bunch of lenses in here, then switching over to like C2 or turning the camera off and turning it back on and losing everything because I didn't save it. So every change that you make in here, you're going to want to save. I'll get to that in a second, but first I want to show you something very important that you need to do if you're doing vintage lenses. You're going to want to go down to the wrench icon. And on the wrench icon, you need to go to button dial setting. I don't know why this setting is in here. Fujifilm. If you would like, please contact me. I am a professional user experience designer. I am a really good information architect. I can help you with this menu system. You really need help. Please give me a call. Anyway, it's in the button dial settings. When you go into button dial settings, you're going to go to page 2, I'm pretty sure. Yep. And you're going to want to make sure that shoot without a lens is on. And this is off by default. So this is why I wanted to show this to you so you knew that this needs to be on. And the reason it needs to be on, even though you have a lens on, is that the adapter and these old lenses, they don't have these connectors on them like this 23mm pancake I have. Without those connectors, Fujifilm has no idea what's on the front of the camera. It doesn't know that I have an adapter. It doesn't know that I have any of this stuff on here. That's why you have to turn that on. All right, so now I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to IQ. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my custom mode to C2. And I've already set up my custom mode to be M42. That means I'm using the M42 mount of this Pentax system. And these are my M42 lenses that I use with this. Now I'm going to go back into the menu. Okay, so you're going to want to go to page 4 of the IQ menu and go into mount adapter settings. And as you can see, I already have some of these set up. And the way I like to name my lenses is just use the naming convention that they have on the lens itself. So that's where my Super Takumar lenses come from. This is the 105. If I were to scroll down to this 105 and go to lens name, you'll see the whole lens name. And that's how it's written on this lens. And that's how I have my other Super Takumar lenses set up as well. So I'll back out of that. I'm going to put this in lens 4. I'm going to go to focal, and you can change this to anything, whatever vintage lens you bought. I really like that you can fine tune. So this isn't a 50, it's a 58. And the lens name is, and I'm going to use the touchscreen panel because it's a little bit easier. Set. Okay, now here's where I made a mistake in the past. I just would leave this. And then if I switch back over to C1 for my just regular raw photos, I'm not using a mounted lens anymore, I would lose this information. So you need to make sure you back out of here, go up 2 spots, go to edit, save custom setting, and whatever setting you want to use this on. If you just want to use it for your C1, that's fine. Now I'm planning on using different system lenses. So that's why I set a custom setting just for M42 lenses, because you can only have 6 lenses in each spot. So in my C3, I might do some Nikon lenses. In C4, maybe I try out some Leica lenses. You know, that's how I'm going to set this up. So you can see with the red dot that there's been a change. So I'm just going to click to the right, go down to save the changes, and click OK. So now when I switch back to my C1 and I click menu and I go to adapter settings, there's no lenses. Go back to C2, menu, go back to my adapter settings. There's my lens information. So why do I do that? Well, one reason is for my own cataloging purposes. When I'm in Lightroom, type in lens, I can begin seeing all the lenses I've ever taken photos with. And I like to sort my catalog this way sometimes. So I can do a smart album. I have a couple of test shots with that Helios 44. So here's some test shots with it. And that's just a really easy way for me to view my library. Something else I can do on apps like Glass or Flickr, the metadata is used to share with other people. So that's one of the reasons that I like to do it. It makes social media a little bit more fun, helps share what you've learned with your adventures. And I think that's it. It's a really simple process. It's just unfortunate that it's really hard to find that stuff. You kind of need somebody to point the way because it's not exactly intuitive. But remember to make sure that shoot without a lens is on, and then make sure that you save after you typed in all that manual information. But yeah, vintage lenses can be a lot of fun. And I think you get a lot of the character from film, or I think you get a lot of the character that people attribute to film from vintage lenses. That's one of the reasons I like vintage lenses, is you can get a kind of retro-y vibe from them, and they all have different characters. Like this particular Helios lens is the 44 version 4. I have another copy. This has the Petzval modification, which means somewhere in here, somebody flipped an element to give this really almost like I'm having a dream kind of view. And so I'm actually kind of excited. When I first tried it out, I wasn't sure, but I think there is a use case for this. And I actually think it might be video. Like there could be a really fun video to do with this dreamy quality where you're trying to do like a dream sequence or a memory kind of video. So if you want to know more about these Helios lenses, stick around, subscribe, because I am going to talk about the differences between these two, and I'll probably just do a vintage lens thing. If this was helpful to you, please remember to give it a thumbs up. That always helps the channel. And as always, I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.